Sepp Straka wasn't on anyone's radar heading into the Truist Championship. In a field stacked with fan favorites like Shane Lowry, Tommy Fleetwood, and even Rory McIlroy, the Austrian-American quietly walked onto the course with zero buzz, zero pressure, and almost no expectations from the outside world. While others were soaking up the spotlight, Straka was preparing for something no one could see coming. And let's be honest, when was the last time you saw his name trending before Sunday? Exactly. That's what makes this all the more unbelievable. But if you looked closer, really closer, you'd notice something brewing under the surface. Straka had been simmering. He'd been consistent, methodical, and building confidence one swing at a time. He wasn't just here to participate. No, this was a man waiting to strike at just the right moment. And as we'd soon learn, that moment was now. What makes this so wild is the sheer magnitude of the event. The Truist Championship isn't just some filler tournament. It's one of the PGA Tour's signature events. Big names, bigger pressure, and the biggest FedEx Cup points on offer. This is the kind of tournament that defines legacies. And while all eyes were locked on McIlroy's comeback arc, or Fleetwood's consistency, Straka slipped through the cracks and changed everything. In just 4 rounds, he flipped the script on what we thought we knew about this season. Every shot mattered more here. Every missed putt, every clipped wedge, every moment of hesitation could cost a player not just a win, but Ryder Cup positioning, sponsor leverage, and rankings that stretch well into 2026. This wasn't just about pride, it was about career trajectory. And in that high-stakes arena, the last person most fans expected to rise was Sepp Straka. But golf doesn't follow scripts, it writes new ones. And here's where it gets even more interesting. According to Golf Digest, even Rory McIlroy himself acknowledged the seismic shift Straka's win created, stating it was a clear reminder to Ryder Cup selectors that Sepp can no longer be overlooked. When Rory starts campaigning for you, you know you've done something massive. And whether you love him or hate him, McIlroy doesn't hand out compliments lightly. That alone should make you stop and think. You see, this wasn't just a good round. It wasn't just a hot Sunday. It was a cold, calculated run that blindsided some of the biggest names in the game. The scary part? It didn't even look forced. Straka played with the poise of a man who knew this was coming, even if the rest of the golf world didn't. And just when it felt like things were settling into the usual top-tier script, Straka decided to make it his own. One swing, one putt, one perfect pace at a time. But how did he actually do it? When did things shift from decent showing to career-defining win? Let's break down the moment the tournament turned on its head, because that's where this story really starts to heat up. Everything changed on the back nine. Up until that point, Sepp Straka had been solid, clean, steady, within reach. But no one thought he was going to light up the course the way he did. That is, until the 13th. One hole, one birdie. And suddenly the conversation around Straka started to shift. The commentators went from, he's hanging in there, to, wait a minute, this guy's coming. In a tournament full of flashy names and highlight reels, Sepp was quietly dialing into something deadly. Something different. It was the kind of rhythm you can't fake. He wasn't scrambling. He wasn't lucky. He was precise, surgical. The birdie at 13 set the tone, but it was 14 and 16 where things started to feel inevitable. On 16, a long iron into a tight pin left the crowd murmuring, not cheering, whispering. That kind of sound only happens when a player's doing something just short of magical. And what followed was pure poetry, a textbook putt that rolled with what the PGA Tour called the perfect drip speed. Dead center, no drama, just execution. This wasn't just another back nine birdie, this was a message. He wasn't here to flirt with the leaderboard, he was here to own it. And while he was making the game look easy, guys like Tommy Fleetwood and Shane Lowry were falling into the exact trap Straka had been avoiding. Fleetwood left 2 makeable birdie chances short. Lowry lipped out on 15 with a putt that would have kept him in contention. Tiny mistakes, yes, but Straka wasn't making any. That's what separated him, and then came 18. The moment. His near-perfect approach on the final hole didn't just seal the win, it sent a message to every name above him on the FedEx Cup board. I'm not here to make up the numbers. A smooth 8-iron that climbed uphill, landed soft, and released just enough to settle 5 feet below the hole. The kind of shot that gives you goosebumps before it even lands. And when he walked up the fairway, there was no fist pump, no theatrics, just calm. focus, like a man who'd done this 1,000 times in his head. He drained that birdie putt without blinking, right in the heart, right when it mattered. That was the moment he took control and never gave it back. Meanwhile, the camera kept cutting back to Fleetwood and Lowry, both still grinding, both realizing the gap was no longer closing, it was growing, and fast. This wasn't just Straka getting hot, this was Straka building a wall between himself and the rest of the field. So now the leaderboard had a new name at the top, and it wasn't the one anyone expected. But how did the rest of the field react? What was the mood in the locker room when they realized what just happened? Stick around, because that's where the story gets even better. If you ever wanted to see what stunned silence looks like on a golf course, you should have been watching the final few holes at the Truist Championship. Because as Sepp Straka stood there, calm, collected, and closing, it wasn't just the crowd that was speechless, it was the PGA Tour elite. Shane Lowry, Tommy Fleetwood, even Rory McIlroy himself. All three had one thing in common by the end of Sunday. They were watching him, and not because they wanted to, because they had to. Let's start with Shane Lowry. The Irishman had been playing sharp golf all week. His iron play was solid, his putting, usually streaky, was dialed in, and he was in the hunt. Then came the back nine. Lowry had two golden opportunities to keep pressure on Straka, but both slipped away. A lip out on 15 and a misread on 17 left him walking off the green shaking his head. According to TalkSport, Lowry was overheard telling his caddy, "I thought that was in." And that says it all. When the game slips away without a mistake, that's when it stings the most. Then there was Tommy Fleetwood, arguably one of the most consistent players in the field. He had momentum, he had birdies, but what he didn't have was enough. Despite a stellar start and a push through the middle stretch of the round, Tommy couldn't catch Sepp. And by the time he realized what was happening, it was already too late. The camera caught him glancing at the updated leaderboard on 17. 1 second of hesitation. One look of disbelief. That's when you knew Straka had officially entered their heads. Even Jacob Bridgman, who put together a surprisingly strong charge on Sunday, couldn't crack the top spot. He birdied 18, tied for 5th, and looked proud, but not satisfied, because everyone on that course knew what kind of performance had just unfolded in front of them. And the one guy not rattled by any of it, Sepp, unshaken, unmatched. But perhaps the most telling reaction came from Rory McIlroy. According to The Sun, Rory was quick to praise Straka post-round, stating the win was a massive reminder to Ryder Cup selectors. He didn't just applaud the victory, he endorsed it. That's not just respect, that's recognition. Rory, the face of modern European golf, doesn't hand out compliments unless they mean something. And this one? It carried weight. And just like that, Sepp Straka didn't just win the Truist Championship, he took it from a field stacked with some of the most dangerous players on tour. It wasn't a fluke, it wasn't a weather break, it was a clean, commanding win over names who expected to dominate. But now that Straka's shocked the golf world, the question becomes, what does this mean for his future? Is this just the beginning? When Sepp Straka tapped in that final putt on 18, it wasn't just the end of a golf tournament, it was the start of something far bigger. This wasn't a feel-good moment, it wasn't a Cinderella win. According to Golf.com, this was a career-defining shift for Straka, a moment where a steady performer took a hard left turn straight into elite territory. You could feel it in the broadcast, you could see it in the body language of the field, and you could read it all over the leaderboard. Because make no mistake, this win didn't just shake up the Truist Championship, it rocked the Ryder Cup picture. Remember what Rory McIlroy said? That this victory was a massive reminder to the European selectors? That wasn't off the cuff. That was a statement, a warning even. Straka just threw his hat into the Ryder Cup ring with so much force that it echoed across both tours. And let's not forget, Rory knows exactly what it takes to compete at that level. So for him to essentially vouch for Straka, that speaks volumes. This wasn't a win that happened in isolation. This was a strategic, composed, big stage performance, the kind of round Europe has historically leaned on come Ryder Cup weekend. And after this showing, they might just have found themselves a new hammer. Even Golf Digest picked up on it, noting how Straka's win served as a reminder that Europe isn't just about the usual suspects anymore. The new generation is arriving, quietly, steadily, and with ice in their veins. And with this win, Straka joins an elite class. Only one other man has picked up multiple wins on tour in 2025, Rory McIlroy. That's it. That's the list. Think about that for a second. One is a future Hall of Famer, a global icon. The other? A guy who walked into the Truist Championship as a mid-tier name and walked out as golf's newest problem for the competition. That's not just a stat, that's a shift in narrative. And let's talk dual tour wins. Straka didn't luck into a soft field. He didn't rack up wins at weak events. He's done it across circuits, across continents, and now across expectations, because he's no longer flying under the radar. That radar just got nuked. So now, every time his name pops up on a leaderboard, the energy changes, the context changes, and most importantly, the respect level changes. He's no longer the guy hoping to get noticed. He's the guy with a resume, a reputation, and a legitimate case for leading roles on the biggest stages in golf. But that leads us to the next question, the one that turns a big win into a bigger story. What's next? Is this Straka's ceiling, or is it just the beginning of a full-blown breakout season? Now that Sepp Straka has shocked the golf world, we've got to ask the question everyone's thinking. Was this a flash of brilliance or the start of something much, much bigger? Because, make no mistake, after that performance at the Truist Championship, the golf landscape feels a little different. The usual suspects are still out there. Sure, McIlroy, Scheffler, Rahm, but now they're glancing over their shoulders. And guess who's in their rearview mirror, gaining fast? Yep, Straka. Let's talk FedEx Cup. Right now, Straka has officially jumped into the top 5 standings, according to the PGA Tour's own projections. That's not some participation trophy. That's a legitimate run at the season-long crown. And if he keeps up this level of form, it's not just theoretical, it's possible. He's already got multiple wins under his belt this season, and we're not even at the halfway point. Consistency, momentum, and confidence? He's checking every box you want from a FedEx Cup threat. And here's the wild part, he hasn't even peaked yet. His game is still evolving. Straka's shown flashes of brilliance before, but this time it's coming with a new layer of polish. Better decision-making, tighter wedge play, ice-cold putting under pressure. Those aren't flukes, those are signs. And the biggest sign? He's proving he can close against the best in the world. That's not just good news for him, it's a nightmare for everyone else. So what about the majors? Is that even in the cards? Look, we've seen guys catch fire before. Danny Willett, Jimmy Walker, even Gary Woodland, but Straka feels different. Less like a one-week wonder and more like a slow-burn contender. If the confidence from this win carries into the next few starts, especially on courses that reward discipline over raw power, why wouldn't he be a factor at the Open or the PGA Championship? Stranger things have happened, and with this new form, Straka's got the tools to make a deep run. Now, here's where it gets fun for the rest of us. How are the other players reacting? Is Straka now on their threat list? You bet. Anytime you take down a stacked field in a signature event, you earn more than a trophy. You earn attention. And attention changes things. It changes how other players prepare. It changes how pairings feel. It even changes Sunday energy when your name is on the leaderboard. Straka's no longer an underdog. He's a target. But here's where we turn it over to you, because this moment belongs to the fans now. Do you think Sepp Straka just entered golf's elite tier, or was this a once-in-a-lifetime run that we'll look back on as a blip? Let us know in the comments below, and once you've done that, have a look at the video that's appearing on your screen right now.